You know what I've noticed? When men in their 50s are not bothering with relationships anymore, people around them automatically assume that you're bitter, that you're scared of commitment, or you're not interested in intimacy anymore. And they think something has gone wrong in your life at some point. And very often they will also try to set you up with one of their friends, which is always a very amusing experience if you've gone through it yourself. But I don't see it that way. And as a matter of fact, I think often it's likely to be one of the most rational decisions a man in his 50s can make. But you don't sit down one day and decide, that's it, I'm kind of done with relationships. It just doesn't work like that. It's more of a slow burner. You kind of gradually pull back and you don't even realize you're doing it. It starts with avoiding certain conversations, for example. You know the ones, can we talk about this type of conversations? When you're trying to say how you feel, but you're being super careful at the same time because you don't want it to turn into an argument. It's like spinning plates. You're just waiting for one of them to smash. So the other thing that you notice is that you stop explaining yourself all the time as well. What you meant, what you didn't mean, why you even said it, the way you said it, all of which becomes super stressful. So eventually you realize that it doesn't really matter how much effort you're willing to put into this, how much talking and explaining you're doing, because it doesn't seem to make much of a difference at all. So you just stop trying to fix things and you stop telling yourself that the next conversation you're going to have could make a difference because you don't believe it will. So you basically kind of give up. And weirdly, that's when things start to feel a lot calmer. Not necessarily better, just calmer, because the tension goes, and you'd think that would make you feel empty or sad, like there's something missing. But surprisingly, it doesn't, because what you get instead is peace. And this is when I think people misjudge those men. You see guys in their 50s who don't want to be in a relationship anymore by choice. They're not angry, they're not hateful, and they're not even sad. They're just done. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, see you later. I've seen this firsthand with a group of mates I've known since I was 15. We've always stayed in touch, even though we live in different countries. We still phone each other, and we even go on holiday sometimes together. And that's the kind of solid relationship I'm talking about. We've all had very similar lives and followed the same conventional paths, so to speak. You know, we all got married, or at least we're involved in long-term relationships, and we've all had kids, and we've all had ugly and costly breakups, and we've all tried rebuilding new romantic relationships again when we were in our 40s. Some worked for a bit, some didn't, but sadly everybody ended up being single again. And without consulting each other, they all came to the same conclusion. They just don't want to do it again. And they all say the same thing. I just feel better on my own. Which is really, really sad. But look, that feeling doesn't just come out of nowhere. Very often it's initially triggered by a massive price a lot of men had to pay and still have to pay. And that price is called divorce. And I'm not talking about having your heart broken here. I'm talking about something far deeper than that. I'm talking about one of the most traumatic events any guy can go through. The one that completely wipes you out on every level for several years. The one that makes you sit back and think, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing this anytime soon again. Because it completely changes the way you look at relationships overall. Suddenly meeting someone new doesn't seem as exciting as it may have been 30 years ago. You know there are major risks attached to that, and you also know how fast stuff can fall apart. It isn't some fresh start adventure anymore, and it's often a lot of hard work. And it's not just about the money, it's all the other stuff, not seeing your kids every day, acting like you're fine when you're actually crumbling away when you're with them, and that background tension with the ex that just never goes away. We all handle this very differently. For me, it took me to some pretty dark place, but you get through it in the end, and once you have, you don't really want to risk going back there again. And being on your own seems like a much better option, or at least far less risky. But look, it's not that because you just hit 50, you don't want to be close to someone anymore. That's not true, or that you flicked off the intimacy switch. You've still got it in you. You still miss having that person to just sit with and share how your day went, or watch some trash TV together, The one's still there. What's gone is the belief that if you put the effort in, it's actually going to pay off. But it's also the feeling that if you're honest about something, it's just going to be tucked away and thrown back in your face maybe 6 months later during an argument. You don't want to walk on eggshells anymore and overthink every little thing you say, wondering how she's going to take it. And even if it's not true and it doesn't happen, you just don't want to take that risk anyway because it could jeopardize your peace. So instead of trying, you just drift into some sort of comfort zone and you don't put your neck on the line anymore. And before you know it, weeks or months and even years have gone by. And you know what's funny? If you listen to some of your friends who haven't actually gone through this, I'm sure they all give you the same kind of advice. I certainly heard that advice myself. You don't want to end up on your own. Get back out there, man. Don't give up. There's someone for everyone. And look, I get it. You can't blame them. They usually mean well. But that kind of advice is great if you feel it's worth giving it a shot, right? But for a lot of guys in their 50s, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Not emotionally, not for their bank accounts, and not for their head either. The risks overweigh the reward. It's not like when we were 20 and never thought things through and that anything could go wrong, right? We've lived it now and we know exactly what it costs when it goes wrong. Sadly, people don't understand men who have clocked out of relationships altogether. And often they're going to misjudge them. They hear you talk like this and think you've just turned into some miserable prick who's given up. It's not that. It's just that always trying to make it work starts to feel like a massive chore and demands a lot of energy. To keep that going, you've got to play the game, the dating, the meaningless conversations, regular rejections, while at the same time trying to convince yourself maybe it will be different this time, only to be quickly disappointed and left empty. This is exhausting and soul-destroying, but having your own peace, that's a whole different ballgame. For a lot of people, that sounds boring as hell, but peace is waking up without any angst or tension, without the need to chase or be validated by someone. It's not some drastic life choice. You've not become a monk and retreated into some isolated mountains, or you're not living in a hut. You're living life on your own terms, at your own pace. And it's not a midlife crisis either. It's just about having a manageable life. Just before we carry on, I wanted to clarify something. I am not pointing fingers or blaming women. This is not the purpose of this video at all. As a matter of fact, deep down, I truly believe that men in their 50s who choose to stay by themselves are not against having someone in their lives. On the contrary, it's just that With age, their priorities have just shifted. Back when we were 20, we spent a great deal of our time trying to find the right girl. It was probably the only thing on our minds. We do all sorts of dumb stuff just to make it happen, just to impress and show bravado. But in our 50s, it's not the be-all and end-all anymore. I think the main goal is to make sure that our life isn't a mess, and if someone nice enough comes along, then why not? But we are unlikely to go out of our way to make it happen. It just boils down to what's actually worse, being a bit lonely sometimes, or dealing with what we might consider as stress. And for most men in their 50s, it's not even a big decision. You don't sit down one day and plan it out. You just sort of end up there. You drift into this way of living, and one day you realize, wow, I've been doing my own thing for a while now, and I'm actually totally fine with it. Okay, I'm going to wrap up this video because it's getting super cold now, and tell you what I really think. I don't think men in their 50s really quit. I just think that after trying so many times and getting kicked in the teeth, the heartbreak, the money, the pure exhaustion of it all, they just stop putting the work in. They're just simply disillusioned. And eventually they stop pushing for some kind of miracle and accept that being on their own is just the way it's going to be. And honestly, I'm not being a party pooper. I just look around at couples sometimes who have been together forever, and they seem to be spending every second slagging each other off. And when you see that, being on your own doesn't look like such a bad deal after all, right? Like they say, better to be alone than in bad company. I think deep down, nobody actually wants to be alone, whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. But finding the right person is kind of like winning the lottery. There are millions of players and there is only a handful of winners. And the problem is we only ever advertise the winners. So if you're not one of them, you feel like you've kind of failed. And the question you should be asking really is maybe not why are men in their 50s done with relationships, but what do you actually get out of it if you were to jump back in one? Like, where's the win? Anyway, if you've been through this or if you think I'm full of it, let me know in the comments below. I'm still just trying to figure it all out.